People deluded. Now Liverpool have just beaten Arsenal 5 goals to 1, and I've still got some thoughts. Now Arsenal fans, well, football fans, it annoys me, but specific to my fan base or Arsenal's fan base, better yet, or the fan base I'm part of, it's a special bunch because Arsenal are the best at speaking in extremes. You speak to anyone during the unbeaten run, it was either poor or incredibly well, and if you try to speak about the in-betweens, people had something to say in regards to players' futures and players being here. Speaking extremes. Today we're speaking in extremes. Some people solely blaming Unai Emery, some people solely blaming the defenders for their excuses, or not even excuses is even the right word, for their liabilities in terms of defending today. But why can't people just look at between, just have balance and see that it's both people's fault? Now, ultimately, at 50%, it's a difficult one for me because I lay it at 50%. Why I say 50% is because Unai Emery can't mitigate for these errors. Like, he can't mitigate for errors. Like, no matter how much planning, it happens as a football manager. You're planning week in, week out, what you're going to do, what not you're going to do, how to beat Liverpool, how not to beat Liverpool, doing all the shape work and all the things you're doing tactically and technically in the build up to the week. You can't plan for Lucas Torreira, someone who's typically consistent, getting caught in midfield. You can't plan for Lichtsteiner, people playing people onside or kicking it into his teammates' back or wherever it went into. You can't plan for any of that. Cheap defensive errors that our players are choosing to do, it keeps being cheap errors. But by that same token, for that specific example, again, he's pressed with options and stuff. The defensive options he's stretched at the moment. We could say, why did you loan out Chambers, regardless of if you rate him or not, for example. But where you can probably blame him specific to that example is we've conceded that sort of goal numerous times, and we could have, for someone that's a good technical manager, it just feels like he's not proactive enough. Like, you could, from the first minute, no doubt he briefed the players. You could see Robertson is trying to get in behind. You could see Trent Arnold. You could see them trying to do things down the right-hand side. You could see playing out from the back was working, but wasn't working and was getting caught. Couple of unnecessary corners, couple of unnecessary throw-ins, had to boot the balls out. So be a bit more proactive, change the shape. And we did change the shape throughout the game a couple of times. And I will also say this again, the midfielders, they're on the football pitch. They have to show the bravery, they have to show the courage. But at the same time, again, with what they've been working on in the week, I didn't see what the players were supposed to do, especially in possession. Who are they supposed to give it to in front of them? Where are the options? In regards to our shape, what are we doing? I'll give Unai Emery credit because we had a clear game plan to a degree. We clearly wanted to, similar to Liverpool, Liverpool wanted to press us high with their fullbacks included. We wanted to exploit the space their fullbacks would leave. Obviously, clearly we worked on probably targeting Iwobi's hand side or playing it into him. We did try to set up with, obviously, you saw Maitland-Niles with a bit of a hybrid role, providing an option as another winger and obviously essentially becoming a member of the back five. Was at no point, if it wasn't Maitland-Niles, you saw Xhaka or someone step in. Obviously, with that being said, clearly the game plan's an extra man to get to be in there to help us defend. Maybe that's because maybe that gives the likes of Kohler a bit more freedom to go forward. Maybe that also mitigates or has in mind Kohler's liabilities or the fact that he switches off a lot, especially in recovery positions. But then you look at that goal and you see the marking. The shape's good, but the marking, again, the players have to listen in training and have to be able to mark. But this is the same theme we've been seeing now. That's something that's on Unai Emery. Quick fire goals. They scored 2 goals with what was it? The goals that made it 1-1 and 2-1 couldn't have been 1 minute 30 seconds between each other. Just like again at Old Trafford, that is something Unai Emery has to. And again, it's going to take a while, but that is something he has to deal with because there's a psychological problem or a head loss. Because it's true what they say. Well, you're most vulnerable when you've just when you've just scored. But there's another saying I can't remember for when you just conceded. It goes along the lines of when you concede one, don't concede another. And we don't really do that. We let our heads drop a bit too much. So in terms of temperament, it will take a while to install that mentality into his game. I do think he's a bit too passive because I'm not going to sit here and say he shouldn't have played 3 at the back. I wouldn't have. You saw my preview. I felt we could have been a bit more expansive. But you can see the logic behind it. What he actually tried to do was there. But it just didn't happen. It's like the creativity, the combinations at times, especially with the midfielders. Again, the midfielders, they need to show bravery. But I have sympathy for the midfielders because beyond receiving it off the centre halves, and once they get it, what are they supposed to do? Aubameyang can only hit him so many times. It just, like, I felt if I'm honest, I did think Unai Emery was a tiny bit cowardly and a bit too pragmatic in his approach today. Again, there's a difference between stability and negativity. Ultimately the players have to take the blame for today. Like Unai Emery, I don't feel his tactics. I feel the game plan was there, but I just feel he takes a bit too long to. He could be a bit more proactive in the sense that you could see warning signs Liverpool were giving us. He could have done something rather than changing the game, changing tactics when we've already gone behind or it's already been at a loss. On a side note, I did think it took a bit too long to bring on Lacazette, but I get it. It's difficult because you're at a tough one. Do you bring him on and give the other team something to defend against, or but take the risk of probably taking off someone that's in a defensive area or in a certain position, which then opens up the floodgates for another potential goal. So it becomes a case of damage limitation versus personal pride. Did want to see Aubameyang and Lacazette on the field at the same time, but again, I get what he tried to do. I felt he could have been a bit more braver, similar to how his approach was against Liverpool. Obviously at the Emirates, I saw a proper clear game plan against Spurs at the Emirates in the league, and obviously Liverpool in the draw. I didn't really see that today. I saw vague sort of things of what we've been working on, but I didn't see a clear, consistent plan because it looked like our players were dipping and diving between game plans. 1 minute Ramsey's pressing with Aubameyang as a 2 and people are behind them. Then they're pressing as a 4. Then it's become a 4-2-3-1 essentially. Then you've seen 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 5 at the back. You're seeing too many different things, and yeah, I'm gonna watch the game again. But yeah, also as well, if you've watched the game before, and the players need to listen, so they have to take the blame. But what did I tell you lot in my preview? I said if I'm Jurgen Klopp, I'm playing Shaqiri because of the run Shaqiri and the space Shaqiri's going to make and to be a bit more offensive. He did that today. Wide areas. Don't these man watch, this is at the players now, don't these players watch these games and learn from this? The manager's also obviously bagged up his video analysis and showed them it, and it's not happened, but wide positions. You saw that from the last game. For me, the runners. Firmino started his second goal, or I can't remember if it was his first or second goal. He started one of them from his own half. We saw it at the Emirates. A late run from, well, not even a late run from Mane. It was Milner. You saw not Milner, sorry. You saw Mane on the left-hand side at the Emirates, check in and then check out, whip a ball in. We failed to clear it. Leno palmed it. And what did you see? A late run from Milner, for which I think he made the run of Xhaka, which he then scored. Obviously, we got something out of that game. But with that being said, these are the things you need to look out for. Obviously, I have sympathy for Unai Emery because these players are choosing a mistake made multiple times is a choice. I do think he obviously has to fix it, but these players have conceded quick-fire goals at United and now and several other examples. And one thing that annoys me is that obviously every goal you concede you could have done better, but too often they're not. If we probably look at all the goals we've conceded, especially in the goals where we were running away with wins and we was getting the rub of the green. Poor cheap goals that could have been avoided, goals that could have been avoided. Every goal today, more or less on the break today, against a run of play or against some sort of action we've done. I know that much. Like I said, I'm gonna watch the game again. You guys know I look at it from a tactical point of view, but yeah, like I said, against the players had to take the blame today, but I did think while Unai Emery had a clear game plan, I just felt he could have been a bit more proactive rather than reactive in several incidences today, and I feel he could have been a bit braver. Like I said, there was a clear sort of offensive, brave sort of game plan against Spurs in the league. The same goes for Liverpool. I feel we probably respected Liverpool a bit too much. Now again, we was in a better run of form them times there, and Liverpool are doing a madness now. So certain things are happening, even in the defeats to Chelsea and City, especially the Chelsea game, to a lesser extent the City one. You saw a clear way of playing and what we was clearly trying to do. I didn't really see that today. I saw incidences, I saw things to say, yeah, we've been briefed on that, we're trying to do this. But between the players not either taking on his knowledge or him not being able to do it properly, that's what he has to take on board. Ultimately, it's 50 in any defeat. I guess it's 50% the players, 50% the manager, and I do still believe that to be true. But the more I think about the game, I have to attribute the players because again, the game plan could have been better in several incidences. But these players let Unai Emery down, especially the defensive ones. I can't understand now. Socrates, when he signed for the club, I was underwhelmed. I've said this bare times. All of you lot that are real will say that as well. It wasn't the centre half, and it's still not the centre half that you're thinking, wow, we're going to shore up our team. Obviously, we can't get Van Dijk, but someone that will make you sit up and think, all right, cool. Whether you can sign him for 75 like Van Dijk or 5 million is down to you and your scouts. We haven't got that. Socrates has done better than people have expected and better than many thought. but he's still not the guy. He's a third choice at best. But either way, he's played for Dortmund, he's played for Milan, he's an experienced individual, he's played for his country. What are you doing for that pen? Kolar, terrible game, but some of the things he's doing, you would think he's a nervous, fresh 18-year-old making his debut. Lichtsteiner, he's played for Juventus, he's captain from time to time these sides. Not permanent captain, he's captained his country. He's meant to be a leader and all of these things. He's meant to be experienced. He's in a very unique role in the sense that he has to be switched on. He's more or less you could say he's part of the back three. He's a right back at times. He's doing quite a lot. He has to be switched on. He's playing everybody on side. It's almost half time. Well, it's 10 minutes before half time, but it's essentially the last 10-15 minutes before we've conceded the first goal. The third goal, sorry. The clearance he's kicked him to Xhaka, right, cool, that can happen to anyone, but a bit more conviction. And forgive me if I'm wrong, I can't remember, people, but I swear this sort of thing, this happened against Brighton as well, or something. We didn't have the best of games against Brighton, but it is what it is. It just feels, for me personally, in the last bit of games we've had, or the last run of games we had, it just feels like our players are freestyling and the game plan has been a bit of a freestyle. Now, we've been in a bit of a wobble, so it's down to the manager to get us out of it, and it is extremely hard, but it is what it is, man. I said at the beginning of the season, I don't think we're getting top four. Admittedly, going on the unbeaten run and these things, I said, you guys know what I said. While I maintain that I don't think we're getting the top four, I'm a bit more optimistic about it. And I don't think we've got it in us to get it. And the saddest thing is it comes down to simply investment. We're cash rich. We have spent. I'm sure Sanye's got targets in mind, and I'm sure whether I'll agree with them or not, Emery's got his own targets in mind. One thing's for sure, you need to be backed financially. We need to do something. You can't keep doing this. We can't move with austerity measures. You can't, again, not to dig out Cahill, but you can't be linked with Cahill. You can't be trying to sign past it players. If it's not him, it's anyone else. You need to give something to work with. Now, Unai Emery obviously signed up to the job, but how can you expect to get back to do anything? Again, this season is just a blank canvas sort of thing. It's just about patterning the things, getting a sort of way of playing, patterning defensively, but it doesn't fill me with any confidence. And that's one reason I don't want certain players to leave, because in my head, if you're not Messi or Ronaldo, it shouldn't matter if you leave a club. But the key thing is who you're going to bring in. Many players leave this club, I don't feel they're going to bring people in. We've got ourselves off the pitch as well as paying for it. We've got ourselves in a pickle with the finances around the contracts. Again, I'm not a finance man, but you get the point. We really need to decide what we're trying to do, man, because when the sun is shining, and I was saying to you guys, listen, I'm not trying to sound like a Grinch, and some of you lot were saying it as well. I'm not trying to sound like a Grinch, but when you look or review some of these games that we've been scoring 4 or 5 goals, playing well, winning them, turning them around and winning, or having a poor first half and flurrying in the second half, when you look at these games, they tell a story, and we're probably scoring more goals than statistically we're probably projected to, or we're overachieving in that regards. And alarmingly, again, Wenger's not a defensive manager, but when you look at, and again, Unai Emery, these are not his signings and all of these sort of things, but have we looked any better defensively? I'm not saying that we need to be moving like Pochettino's back four. Do we look more assured of ourselves defensively? Or if that's not a good question, do we look a bit more like people know a system, like they're getting to grips with something? You could say yes, you could say no by the same token, people. That's, again, yeah, that's all I'm saying, really. But I don't even know, I'm just saying, bear, man, we've lost now. So, yeah, I think the good news, or if you think it's a good news, I think we got Blackpool in the FA Cup on Saturday. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Something's telling me we're in action on Wednesday. I could be wrong about that. But either way, I think we got 2 game weeks. Either way, though, man, I'm going to get out you lot's hair. Liverpool 5, Arsenal 1. People, DG, stay safe and them things.